Hope everyone's doing all right today. This is going to be a review on the sound of Barbenheimer. So, what that actually is the movie Oppenheimer and Barbie both came out around the same time, and there was a trend that was created. People were saying, "Oh, Barbenheimer. Which one are you gonna watch first? Which one are you gonna watch second? We're gonna watch them back to back, days apart. Usually, it was a day apart. I've noticed for some reviewers, but yeah, Oppenheimer and Barbie came out at the same time, and it was a huge thing. The Sound of Freedom actually came out before both movies. I can't remember exactly when, but it came out before. But there's a reason why The Sound of Freedom is added into this review. So I did think it was interesting seeing the whole dynamic between Oppenheimer. Yeah, the dynamic between Oppenheimer and Barbie and how they targeted certain audiences. I did feel that Oppenheimer was male focused and Barbie was more female focused. And having these two movies released at the same time provided an opportunity, I guess, provided an opportunity to where families could come to the movies together. Males could see Oppenheimer and females can see the Barbie movie. The only issue with that is I don't know if the times were the same, but Oppenheimer was about almost twice as long. So if Oppenheimer was, 3 hours and Barbie was 1.5 hours or whatever, then, there would be a lapse there. So, my original theory was, oh, maybe all the family come together, but it was the time or whatever. So I think it was more focused on the, more of the how can we target the male audience and how we could target the female audience. There were certain elements that were put into Oppenheimer that really did appeal or reflect in certain ways male mentality that wasn't very forced, that wasn't very modernly traditional, which if that word even exists, and yeah, there was a lot of elements from Barbie that was very, you know, yeah, guys, men probably wouldn't like this too much, obviously. So whenever there is something huge or big happening in the world, there is a series of movies that will somehow uh, line up with each other, and that's why I'm bringing these three movies together right now. So before I say anything, um, there was a quick little interview I saw where Robert Downey Jr. had a interview. He was in Oppenheimer, and I think the interview asked him what he thought about the world and everything, and he was talking. I believe he was talking about Oppenheimer during this interview. I believe, and he was saying, "Oh, I believe I like the matriarchy," and he was saying he thinks that when the world should be run by women and everything. He always thought that, and he always stood by it. I I didn't really believe that. I didn't really. I know a lot of people might look at that and be like, "Oh, hey," and it might cause a whole controversy. I don't really think that. Sometimes you have to understand that when you're in a certain position, sometimes your opinions, the truth, can really affect you in a different way. You can't always just be honest about what you think or how you feel because there will be consequences depending on how big your following is. And that is just a very unfortunate and sad thing. Um, so yeah, just whatever his real opinion was, I don't know, but I just thought that was odd that he said that. And yeah, in this world, sometimes you do have to like swallow that pill and just say whatever is the winning side. Otherwise you could end up destroying yourself, and that's a terrible thing to say. It's a terrible thing to come out of my mouth, but it is what it is. And there's a huge war going on between like the genders, like a huge gender war between masculine and feminine, and it was weird seeing these two movies be put back to back with each other, and for it to be about, who dominates the world and in what way does it happen in. And it's like, it shouldn't be viewed that way. It shouldn't be looked at that way. It's everyone has their own, both sides have their own uniqueness, and they all have their own sense of power and influence in the world and in society. It doesn't matter if it's not apparent. It is. And people, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, men rule the world and it shouldn't be that way. Women need to run it. But it's like, okay, if you really want women to rule the world, think about what that looks like. Just think about what that looks like. Think about where we are in society. Take the idea and the traits of what that would mean if women ruled the world, and look at society and see how that correlates. And you'll see how women have a huge influence on the world and always have been. It's just like the alpha and the sigma. It's about influence and it's about projection. It's about the subconscious and the conscious. What is aware, what is not aware, or what is created, and what makes up that creation. There was a quote: behind every good man is a good woman. And that is a very powerful quote, especially in today's time, that I think is being completely overlooked. Because what that meant was, in order for someone to really be at their best, they have to have a strong support system. And without a strong support system, a structure can't stand properly. So just because you have like a man or something, or someone is the face of being in charge, that doesn't mean that, they're just, oh, I'm the big man. No, it's the support system that helps them maintain being that leader, that helps them maintain their position, that helps them maintain being the best version of themselves. And being the support system, or being the seasoning of that overall huge, meal that's presented, or whatever. It's a weird thing to say, but being the seasoning to something that is just so good and so potent, that is a beautiful blessing in itself. And that's what people overlook. I really think that's something that people just don't cherish. It's that the strongest abilities that women have are completely overlooked, and people just tend to not appreciate them. Not even women themselves. It's like the beauty of life and the beauty of what it means to be alive in this world. It's like women are very potent in making those things a reality, making life amazing and beautiful. The thing is, the true beauty of life are things that people do not tend to care about nowadays. People don't care about the quality of life, about the quality of their lifestyle, how they're living, about ambition, about fulfilling your own soulful desires, to just go out in nature and just enjoy the stars, enjoy the waterfalls, enjoy the beach, enjoying people and their company, and just being in a room with a person and saying, hey, we walk on the same soil on this planet. And that's a cool thing. That's a beautiful thing. Just being able to sit down and recognize that. Just recognize the beauty of what life has to offer. That's something that, and just the well-being of other people, the well-being of animals, the well-being of kids, the well-being of the human race. That is something that a lot of people just completely overlook. They overshadow it, of course, with, oh, injustice, something is wrong, and therefore we have to do something about it. But whenever things are going good, people don't do anything about it. You do something about it by really appreciating it, by recognizing it for the good things that it is that it does and for what it is. So, saying that, I guess speaking from a traditional point of view or whatever, which is very difficult to do because it's going to be taken personally depending on who you are and how I word it. But when people say women don't rule the world, they don't have any influence or anything like that, it's not that. It's that women have a heavy influence on the potency of life's quality in the human condition. And when you really think about the significance of that, and like if you have a male and if a female has the ability to make that male the best version of him or to make him see life better or to be a strong support system, then it's like, okay, that's wonderful. And then, something can be created out of that. But then you have a lot of people who argue against that. And the arguing is the biggest issue in the mindset of everybody. Because when you sit here and you argue about a solution, you just create a bigger problem. You completely ignore that one solution is a solution to one problem. If you look at one problem and you dissect it and you cut it into 10 problems, then you're going to need a solution for each one of those individual tiny micro problems just to have a satisfying answer to the bigger one. Like you have one problem, one answer. But no, you look at that one answer and you cut it up and now you have 10 problems. Now you need 10 different answers just to make up the one bigger problem that was the original problem in the first place. And that's what arguments start up. When you internal arguments, when someone says, "Hey, I have a solution here to your problem, but what about when this, and this happens?" It's like you're missing the point. You're completely missing the point. When it comes to creating something good, it's not about having control over it. It's not about bringing it down to your level or bringing it down to your state of being or your mindset. It's not about that. It's about understanding that you have to honor things that are outside of yourself, that keep things afloat, that keep things balanced, that build something beautiful overall. Once you learn to properly acknowledge those things, when you have a solution, then you understand that this one solution or this solution is a solution to many other things. Once you grasp the power of understanding one thing, you understand how that one thing can trickle through other parts of life. That's what wisdom is. It's about having the one tool that can do multiple jobs. And that's what a solution can be. So learning to acknowledge that influence isn't always about the face. Influence is also an invisible force that exists within the minds of people and within the heart of people. And I understand a lot of times when that is brought up, a lot of women fight against that idea because they're like, no, why do I need to give up my power or share my power to other people? I don't want to do that. That's not right. This is my power, and I don't need to sacrifice myself for the sake of other people and to making other people happy and to making them satisfied. That's wrong. As a woman, I don't need to do that. And I don't argue with that for the simple fact that men have to do that every single day of our lives, even when we're children, even when we're kids, when we're at a very young age. The entire mindset, the entire thing of males is we are contributors to human society. We are the provider. We are about self-sacrificing for the sake of the tribe, for the sake of other people, for the sake of the people around us, whether it's apparent or not, whether it's seen or not. It doesn't matter. It's the way that we're built, and it's natural to us. So a lot of the times when women do have a part to play in a bigger whole, they get very defensive about it, and they get very like, oh no, 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 I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for this. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I understand that men have to do it all the time. That's what has to keep things going, because if a guy doesn't, everything falls apart. Of course, a woman is not equipped to deal with a lot of problems that men have. However, a lot of a lot of male qualities, healthy male qualities, are missing in a lot of women these days, I've noticed, or in a certain form of female development, it's missing. And by understanding how to balance out both sides, then both sides can have a very strong superpower. When you have a male who's very strong but understands the intimacy of life, it is a beautiful thing. When you have a woman who is fully in feminine power and understands how she has to be submissive to the circumstances, and by being submissive to the circumstances, she knows how to create the proper boundaries to assert what needs to be asserted in a situation to make it better. That can be a superpower. I even watched it was an old 80s anime. I wish I can remember what it was called. But even with like certain older movies and things like that, there were certain women, and they were kind and they were gentle, but they were brave. And I remember watching this movie, and I'm still gonna stay on top. But I remember watching this movie, and I was like, oh man, this girl, she's so nice. She was the president's daughter, and she found this guy, and she's like, yo, these demons are taking over the world, and we need you to go fight the bad guy. And the dude was like, okay, well, whatever, let's go do it. So, no, actually, he didn't. He decided not to. So the president's daughter decided to go fight this demon herself. And she went out into the city, and she did what she had to do. And the dude found her and was like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. So she got into, both got into some trouble. But they had each other's back, and she was brave enough to go in there. And she did make some mistakes, but, she did what she felt she knew she needed to do to get this job done. And by the end of the movie, she ends up going into this graveyard or whatever, and there was the spirit in there, this little girl, and I guess the park got bombed or something, and what ended up happening was yeah, excuse me, sorry about that. What ended up happening was the woman, she went to this spirit, and she was like, hey, what's going on? The little girl's like, oh, I'm looking for my mom. And a bunch of other kids were there, and their spirits were very, like, confused and angry, and they ended up attacking this girl and everything. And this girl, she was like, oh, man, I could actually feel their pain. I know what it is they're going through. And they were very aggressive, and the person that she was with another guy, a supporting character, and he was there, and he was like, yo, we got to get out of here. These spirits are crazy and everything. And this girl was like, I understand what they're feeling. I understand, what they need. I get what's going on right here for these souls and what's going on inside of them. And she did get attacked, and she did, get hurt, but that's a part of a battle. You're not going to go into any fight or any battle without taking a few scratches, without taking a few scars. That's just how it is. Whether it's a physical battle, an emotional battle, a spiritual battle, I think I said physical battle, whatever, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever it is. You're not going to go into any battle without taking a few licks, and that's just how it is. So whenever there's an emotional battle or something, or spiritual battle, then yeah, people tend to back away from it. But no, this girl understood that she was fighting a much deeper battle that exists within the soul, the human soul. And it was an emotional battle. And she understands that there's going to be a few hits to take. But overall, she knew what needed to be done. And she knew not to submit to the wrong thing. She knew not to submit to the very thing that she needs to fix. You can't fix anything if you can't fix anything if you're under it. You can't fix anything if you are submitted to the brokenness of it. You have to just, I guess you can't pull anything up if you aren't above it, I guess. I don't know how to properly word that. Okay, no. I know how to properly word this. I just heard this quote, I think, 2 days ago, and it was, the best way to help somebody is to not be like them. No, that's so okay. It was a quote by a rich person. The best way to help poor people is to not be like them. That was a quote that a rich person said. But the energy of what that means still stands in this situation. Is you can't be amongst you can't live in the energies amongst those who you're trying to help. You have to learn how to live with an energy that is above where you're in, and I don't want to keep repeating myself trying to get that quote right, but basically, so she understood that, yeah, I understand that you are in this pain. I recognize that pain also, but at the same time, my who I am overall is above this pain, and as long as she held on to that, she was able to submit to the situation, but she still had that boundary within herself to where she was able to say, okay, this is a bad situation. I'm in this situation. I know what needs to be done, and I'm going to get out once I need to get out. But I'm not going to be in this situation and force myself to try and make this work. I need to be ahead of the game, and I need to know what I'm getting into right now, and I need to know what needs to be focused on and what the goal is, and I can't lose sight of that. It was a very powerful scene in that movie, but watching it might seem like why was this scene even in this movie at all? And I'm bringing that up because it was because watching that anime movie actually is a perfect representation of all three: Sound of Freedom, Barbie, and Oppenheimer. Actually, the male character, he. In the cartoon, in the anime movie that I watched, he was fighting off demons and everything. He fought the bad guy and he lost. And then when he saw the girl, the president's daughter, and she was helping all these spirits, he saw what she went through and how she presented going about fighting these spirits emotionally, and the huge battle that she went through to help them find their own peace. And and once he saw that and he witnessed that, then he understood the value. He understood what he needed to protect. As a male, he understood what it was he was actually fighting for, what he was fighting to preserve in the world, what he was fighting to protect. And once he saw, oh, this is what I'm actually fighting for. It's not just to defeat the bad guy. It's not to overcome this obstacle. It's not just to get this problem out of the way. There is a bigger unseen enemy that is going about, that exists as a virus in humans, and stopping that from hurting, from destroying the human soul. That is what he had to fight for. And so once he witnessed that from the president's daughter, then he was like, okay, you rest now. And now that I understand what I'm fighting for, I understand how to find the proper power within myself to overcome what is blocking that from being free and happy. And then he understood that, and he fought the bad guy, and he won. And then a different character showed up at the end of the movie and said, hey, yeah, so good job, but once something is exposed to the world, you can't really unexpose it. It's just about it's about how can you possibly create a balance for it? How can you possibly make it better? How can you possibly give it less of a bad influence or less of a negative influence on people? And I thought that was a really cool message, because that was a strong message in The Sound of Freedom also. The Sound of Freedom was a very powerful movie about, just freedom, just what it is that you're fighting for, understanding what it is you fight for, and the obsession that the main character had. This situation isn't right. This isn't right. I need this person. I need this person. I need that person. And when she tried to get this one person, and in the process saved a bunch of other people, and he was like, I gotta keep going. This person that I was looking for, I couldn't find him. And then he kept going. And a lot of people were like, hey, you did what you could. You need to be happy about that. And that's it. Main character was like, nah, something, I need to keep going. And he was fighting for the right reason. What he was trying to preserve, what he was fighting for within children, within this kid, within this little girl. When you understand the potency of what it is you're fighting for, then you understand how far you need to go for it. And sometimes in the process of when we create something, it gets a little bit out of hand for us. And the reason why I say that, because in that movie, Sound of Freedom, the main character was like, okay, so we got to get these bad guys, so we can find this little girl. The bad guys have this little girl, we got to find her. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a whole operating system ourselves, and we're just going to make it seem all legit and nice and everything. And then once we get the bad guys to kind of do business with us, then we're going to get them. Well, in the process of doing that, when they created their ring, he created a ring. And the reality of that was, hey, you are not in control of what you create in the world. What you create in the world just wanted you to birth it. But now they're on their own. Now they stand on their own, and they're their own entity, their own body. And you can nourish it. You can still be there, but at the same time, once you create something, you created a whole being that exists as a part of you, but as a whole in itself. Therefore, parts of that individual whole becomes potent in areas that you yourself probably weren't potent in before you created it. So, a person can create a coin, and it's like, cool, I created a coin, and then that coin turned into money. It's like, oh, I created money. It's like, cool, but money is its own entity now. So you can't control that. You've created it. You've thrown it out in the world. That's no longer a part of you. So the main character in The Sound of Freedom created something, and now he had to understand, oh, snap, now that I created this, I don't have control over it. It has its own identity now, and now I'm a subject to its rules. I'm a subject to it. So that crosses into Oppenheimer also. And Oppenheimer, when he created his bomb and he wanted to do something good with it, he had his own intentions. And overall, once he created it, the military or whatever was like, hey, we got a bomb now. We can blow stuff up. We can destroy stuff. And he was like, no, because, if we create a bomb that's too powerful or something, what we create, once we introduce it into the world, people are going to want to mimic it. They're going to want to recreate it. So we can't make anything that's too powerful, because if we do, it's going to be copied, or it's going to try and be created more potent, and we're just going to potentially create more destruction. Like, no, we're doing a one-time thing right now, and that's it. But no, once he created the bomb, it was out of his hands. And yeah, that's how those movies correlated. It was once you do something once you open a Pandora's box. There is no closing it back. Even if you do close it back, the damage is done, the influence is out there. So, with this, with the correlation of The Sound of Freedom and the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer, the correlation of these three movies, which is weird because this is actually where the review should technically have started, and I'm half an hour in. The correlation about these three movies is the fact that all three of them represent this idea of once you introduce something into the world, that idea becomes a virus that infects the minds of everyone who's exposed to it. I don't know exactly what's going on in the world, because usually when there is a huge idea, when you know something going on out there in the world, you'll have a bunch of movies that revolve around a similar idea, and that similar idea is what's going on in the real world. And I noticed that years ago, there was a time when movies that were talking about the same subject, for like, 2007, a bunch of movies came out back to back, and they all had the exact same plot line. Or when that movie Black Panther came out, I noticed Aquaman came out, and Aquaman and Black Panther had the exact same plot, the exact same storyline. Almost everything was exactly the same, except for one was on land and one was on water, but it was the same thing. Royalty, a prince having to reclaim a throne from their cousin or from their half sibling or something, from a family member who overthrew the king and took possession and wanted to destroy the human world. And the hero, the prince, had to find someone to help them realize, oh no, that's your throne, you deserve it. And they had to overthrow their family member and become king. Basically the exact same plot for Black Panther and Aquaman. And anyway, it was just like, I just noticed that within movies for a couple years. And when 2019 hit and the Avengers Endgame came out, when Thanos did his snap and everything, I was like, uh-oh, this seems like one of those prediction movies, like either something is going on right now in the world, or something is going to happen very close to when that movie was released. I remember there was also a Netflix movie about a train in a town that had some chemicals, and the train crashed and the chemicals spilled and killed a bunch of people, and they made like a horror movie off of it on Netflix or whatever. Just happened this 2023, yeah. And right after they released the movie, I believe it was like a few days or a week or so, it ended up happening in real life in the exact town that was the movie was about. I can go on forever about stuff like that, but main point I'm trying to make is something in the world. Be careful about what you create in the world, because when you create something in the world, understand you don't have control over it. Understand that you are just observing it at this point. You are an observer of what it is you create. And what you create is going to do whatever whatever it's going to do. You can create something beautiful, and if you're not careful about how you perceive it or the quality of your own heart, you're only going to see that thing as bad, So the correlation of Barbenheimer was just creating something, introducing something into the world, and thinking you have control over it when really it has control over you. So just be careful about what it is you create. Be careful about what it is you make, because it can get out of your hands and it can be very destructive. Just have deep understanding about it. Anyway, I was hoping that this went on for 10 minutes and it went for 34. don't know what I'm going to do with this recording. Honestly, I might just upload it anyway. And if anybody does want to listen to this, then hopefully they do. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. But yeah, the sound of Barbenheimer. Do the best you can with what you got, and thank you for everyone who stayed and listened to this whole thing. And you have a great day.